Some of the folks on your committee don't know me.
All right. 12:01, it looks like all our committee members are here now. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and get started on this Government Operations Committee meeting, March 3rd, 2022. Are there any changes to the agenda? I think so.
I don't like the orange.
Oh, really? I love that.
Gee, you're fussy. I can't believe it.
All right, note that in the minutes, Brittany.
It's salmon.
Salmon.
Oh, then that's all right.
It's salmon. Any comments from the public? I don't think so. Let's approve the minutes of February 3rd. Somebody move those, please.
Oh,
Dan moves, Travis, no, Greg seconds. Any questions or comments on the minutes or edits? All right, let's go ahead and vote on those. Dan,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that passes. Thank you. We have one advisory board appointment to the Historical Commission. Simon St. Lauren. Term expires December 31st, 2024. Mike moves that. Seconded by Dan. Mike?
I'm sure Carol will agree. Simon's been a great member.
Yeah.
He's done some great things for us.
wonderful.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Dan,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Great, that passes. Thank you. All right, well, we are lucky today to have Carol Cammon here, our county historian. I invited her to come and just talk to us a little bit about what she's up to, what the history office is up to. And I also, Mike serves as our liaison to the Historical Commission. And I hoped maybe you both could talk a little bit about what the commission is doing. So if you want to introduce yourselves to a couple of our new members and
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled that somebody's taking notice of the county historian. It's a position that seems to sneak under under everybody's viewpoint. But the county, and I have been your county historian since 2000. And I looked up the law just recently to make sure that I was doing all the right things. And the law says that the county historian is supervisory to all the town historians. And under New York state law, every community with a population of more than 400 is required to appoint a town or a municipal historian. So we have 9 towns, we have 9 historians, we have a city historian, and we have the county historian, and each of the town historians has been asked to have a deputy. So there are a group of us. We meet monthly. We're called the Municipal Historians of Tompkins County. And we get together to talk about what's going on, or I bring a document, or we discuss things like monuments. We discuss a lot of things. It's a tremendously lovely group of people who didn't know each other. And I think when we started, and I think now they wouldn't give this up. So my job is to bring them together, to educate them as much as I can. And I try to do so gently. And because I don't know everything. And I bring questions for them to help me answer. So it's a very nice group. And that meets once a month. We've been meeting by Zoom because of COVID, but in April, we're going to meet in person, I hope. That would be just great. The other thing I do as county historian is answer questions. I get a lot of questions by email, and many of them I send out to the town historians because it's about someone who's living in Caroline or someone who's living in Dryden. And that's the easy part. I send some to the History Center, and I answer some that seem vaguer. And that's sort of a pleasant part of my job. And because of email, I get more than people did when they had to send letters. So that's a promising connection with people. And we get questions from people in Tompkins County and then from people all over the country. So it's a good way of interacting. One requirement that the county historian has, according to state law, is that I may not be partisan. And so I try not to be partisan. And I haven't had a chance to be partisan, so that was easy. And I have to hand in annual reports, which I have done every year, I think, since we started. I wonder if any of you have questions about what I do.
Yeah, anybody, particularly either of our newly elected legislators, if they have thoughts or questions about general work? Or Dan?
Okay, well, I have some more
hang
things.
on.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
I had one. I want to give them a chance. But can you talk about the difference between what you do and what the other historical agencies in the county do?
That's really complicated, but yes.
I withdraw the question.
Thank you for the question. We have an excellent preservation group. Historic Ithaca in Tompkins County is wonderful. They do good work. They're very present oriented. They're very recycling oriented. They do a wonderful job. We have a good but understaffed historical society, the History Center, and I advise them. So there's a person on the History Center putting up an exhibit, and I've been helping her do that. I don't get tremendously involved, but I get it. I do whatever I can to help. Her next exhibit is on the census, and I'm helping her with how to do that. She's very good, so I'm not saying she needs a lot of help, but it's a big job, and so I'm doing things for her. And there are 5 historical societies in Tompkins County. There's a very active one that's new in Caroline. And then there are 9 historians. So there's overlap, but there's not overlap. And I do the bigger picture, and the town historians do the history and genealogy and place marking in their particular towns. But they usually bring something to me to our committee meetings, and we talk about what's the right thing to do. So I have the best of all possible worlds. Thank you. That's a lovely question.
I have another one.
Yes.
Go ahead, Dan, and then Mike.
As I recall, several years ago when they did renovations at the library, you got a little office there.
Yeah.
I know we're in COVID times. Can you talk about how much you use that, if that's been a good place to be and all that?
I loved being in the library. It was just exactly the right place. But that office became needed by someone else. And so I vacated it. And I now have an office in the History Center building, which is a county office. It has one piece of county furniture and the rest, it's a table from the old library, and Jackie Kippola said I had to keep it. And then I have furnished the rest of the office, and I hold meetings there. Because of COVID and because I'm ancient, I have not been using the office a great deal, but I see that it will be used more. I will use it more. I've been using it for meetings this month. And at a certain point, you're going to all kick me out because I'm so old, and we'll have a new county historian, and that person will use it a lot.
And is that office yours solely?
Solely mine.
Wow, nice.
Yep. Yes, and it's a very nice office.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Mike?
I just wanted to point out that some of the other things that she has done is to spearhead the Civil War Centennial Commission that went for 5 years.
We did it together.
And she did a wonderful job spearheading the bicentennial of the county in 2017.
And then in 2018, the legislature created the Historical Commission, and that's really the piece of this that you're probably asking about. I don't know why the legislature created this.
Because he told us to.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good going. Good going. No, I did not tell you to do that. And the historical commission, which were a number of people from the Bicentennial Commission who wanted to carry over. We enjoyed meeting together. They didn't mind my talking too much at them. The historical commission spent 3 meetings, I think, trying to figure out what our role would be. And we came up with 2 things that I think are important. The first is to make the history that's going on here more prominent to people so that people will, not insurance-wise, but trip over history. They will know that they're living in a place that has its own history, and that history can bring us together. The second thing the Historical Commission did was say, there is no one supporting research and publishing. And we decided we would do that. And so with the funds that have been left over and that you carefully took care of for me, we have produced 5 booklets like this. This one's yours, Mike. The latest one is the Gayahono, the people of Cayuga Lake Basin. I don't know how to hold this up so you can see it. Written by Professor Kurt Jordan. And it is not only a history, oh, thank you, Mike. Not only a history of the Cayuga Nation in terms of historical facts, but the point is that they are a living people today. And so Professor Jordan brought his history up to that point. We have another history that's ready to go. Our designer is working on it, and it's called Send These to Me. And it's about ethnic and geographic diversity of the people who have come here and how they have created communities within our community, how they were met by those people who are already here, and what's happened, and how we have gone from people who were ethnic and different and scary because they weren't just like the people who were here first, to an embracing diversity. And it's that diversity that we bring out in the 20th century. So I think this is a unique kind of history. In fact, all the pamphlets are relatively unique. And so we're doing that. We're doing one other thing, and that is that we were given access to enough money to create 2 statues. So these are not being created with public money. And the 2 statues are, the donor asked that they would represent people who are not normally represented, which means women. We have 5 public statues in the county, and none of them are of women. And so we are creating 2 statues. How this happened, I'm not quite sure I know, but we ended up with probably the most prominent public sculptor in the country doing the 2 statues. One will be of Frances Perkins, the first Secretary of Labor, who is responsible for our Social Security net, which we have got to protect. And that will sit on North Cayuga Street, facing the DeWitt Mall. There's a little park on INHS land, and they've been wonderful partners. And the second statue will be on Clinton Street at the corner where Henry St. John School is, that whole INHS property. And it will be a portrait of Miss Lucy Brown, who was a community organizer, very concerned with housing for the poorer communities, poorer segment of our county, and was a sort of a mother figure for a lot of people in the African-American community. So we're putting in 2 statues of 2 women by a totally famous sculptor. Her works are in Central Park. She just did the new statue of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Is seated in the wheelchair with the little girl with braces on her legs next to her. That's on Roosevelt Island. And we're thrilled to be able to do this. And we hope everybody comes and sits down and has a conversation or a picture taken with Frances Perkins, and goes over and sees Miss Lucy Brown. So these are the kinds of things we're trying to do. Simon St. Laurent, whom you've just reappointed to the commission, has created for us a website. And we haven't gotten it up yet, but it's going to be. And the website is not going to be sepia as much as forward looking. This is where we are, and here's the background for it, rather than here's an old building and isn't that great? We think the old building is great too, but we want to show that this building, which is an old building, the first Gothic courthouse in New York State, is being used in different ways. And it's a community place. So we're trying to do these things. So your question is exactly right. It just took me a long time. I'm sorry, Dan.
That's
Perfect.
great. That was all great. Other questions or comments?
I could just say that these are available
Okay.
at the History Center. The History Center does not sell its pamphlets. We have given them to either Historic Ithaca, and we've given them out to the schools and to the libraries. And this pamphlet has been is under copyright. And Professor Jordan and the History Center will bring out new copies and they will be available there. I think this is really important. There has never been a very significant history of the people, the Gayahono people, the Cayuga people, written. There's a sort of romantic book that was done in the 1950s, but this is actually a wonderful history, and we are tremendously proud to bring it out. And so it will be available there, and all of our other pamphlets are available there or at Historic Ithaca.
That's great. And I hope that our group of new legislators, they're meeting with a lot of department heads and agencies, and I hope that they'll meet with you and learn a little bit more, and maybe you can give them some of these booklets and pamphlets, and because there's quite a few other books and things.
There are
Yeah.
5 of them now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So those are all really good, references for folks to read. And,
Right.
yeah, great.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for being here.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah.
Local history in Tompkins County, or knowledge of place in Tompkins County, and what's happening here is not happening everywhere else in the state. It's unique.
Yeah.
There is a lot of support for it. STPB has the celebration grants that I run, and it's really exciting to see that kind of interest here. Sorry, I keep dripping.
No worries. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
and
very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
I'll definitely talk with you more.
Yeah.
And thank you for this. I look forward to reading it.
Thank you. I can't give them all out because I don't own them. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. And the only thing I would add is that we are also doing the street sign project on Cayuga streets and the 3 Cayuga streets in the county. And it will have Cayuga in the Cayuga Gayahono proper spelling, although that hasn't been easy to figure out what the proper spelling in English letters and symbols would be. And the other thing I just want to say about the Historical Commission, and I'm so pleased to be part of it, is that unlike the 2 commissions that preceded, which had a central focus, this allows us to do various things and go down various paths. And under Carol's leadership, we're doing that.
Yeah, great. Thank you both.
Thank
for
you, Mike.
your service on that and for the
Oh,
report.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go back out into the weather.
Yeah. Enjoy your day. All right, we are going to move on to Board of Elections, and I see Tamara Scott and Steve DeWitt are both here. So let's see, let's go ahead and get this first resolution on the floor, which is acceptance of grants and budget adjustment Board of Elections. ID 10704. Mike Klein moves that, seconded by Dan. And I see both Steve and Tamara. Do either of you want to speak to this and tell us a little about it?
Tamara, would you like to go with this?
Sure, sure. So we received some grant money. We submitted, receipts and all to the state to get, the money. Oh,
Reimbursed.
yeah, to get the money reimbursed and stuff that we've, have to do to run elections and that kind of thing. So, it's really just hoping that, you accept the money that's coming in and it gets put in back into our budget. Is there any specific questions about it?
Anyone have questions? Mike?
Always glad to see grants. Thanks for the application to get it.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and vote on that. Dan,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Travis,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So that passes. Thank you. Second one is increased pay rate for election workers and poll workers, ID 10757. Can someone move that, please? Greg moves, seconded by Dan. Thank you. Why don't you tell us about this one?
Okay, I think the last time that we increased the pay rate, of course, the legislature does it for poll workers was back in, I think, 2016, or certainly no later than 2017. And, the work that they're doing, they're working with more electronic equipment now. The hours are still just as long. It's still very difficult to get people to do it, and the question has been raised on more than one occasion in our trainings, like when are they going to get a pay raise? Because for some of them, a little extra money is an incentive for them to want to do the work, and it's hard work, and I think the $14 is a fair rate. That we're looking at 15 per hour.
Questions or comments about this? Dan?
I have two questions. I'm not sure I completely understood this poll workers versus election workers and what the difference is, and if are they both getting the same salary?
Yes, back in 2020, presidential election year, when we're looking at 3 elections that year, it would mean that any poll worker that worked all 3 elections would earn more than $600. And finance, I think, recommended that they would prefer, anybody that's going to be over that 600 level be put into a title, which we called election worker. And those workers could earn up to $1,800 during the year without having to have money withdrawn from their account. But it was more a recommendation, I think, from finance that we, come up with a mechanism so that we're not, having a whole lot of people, earning over 600. And so that's what we did back then. And, with early voting and with, all the additional work that we have, and this year we're also going to have a new absentee ballot canvassing law that we're going into effect, where we have to begin counting absentee ballots the day before early voting, tabulating them, but not releasing the results, and then doing another round of opening and tabulating day after early voting ends. and all those results then would, for all those ballots would be released on election night after the polls close. But that's going to create a lot more work. And so it gives us a mechanism to put people into those positions that are going to be earning more than working more than the normal hours for election inspectors. So I guess it's a long way of saying that, they're doing kind of the same work as an inspector. So that title should be consistent with whatever the inspectors get.
So there's two different titles based on how much they may earn, but their earning rate is the same?
Yes.
If I could take a stab, Dan, they're all temporary workers. Poll workers, and the distinction between how much they earn is based on IRS regulations. So if someone, for instance, just works the day of a general election, we expect them to earn less than $600. They can be seen as a contractor to the county and paid out of accounts payable. If they're going to earn more than that, then they have to have certain federal and state taxes withheld. And that puts them, moves them to a title in the county, or moves them into county employment, and they're paid out of payroll. So those are the different distinctions as to whether they're considered a contractor or an actual county employee.
Thank you, Lisa.
Great, thank you.
And then this is a proposal to raise it to $14 an hour. What is the current rate?
$12.50.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Greg has his hand up.
Oh, Greg?
Yeah, I guess this would be a question for Lisa, maybe, and then I guess I have a question for Steve and Tamara. First question is, how does this compare for pay rate to our other like temporary or seasonal workers throughout the county? Is this consistent with what we're paying like temporary labor, or do we have other positions that fill roles like this?
We have temporary positions in the blue collar unit, and we've attempted to keep those positions consistent with the living wage. In this particular instance, the department heads saw the need to increase to attract people for these positions in the upcoming election. What we're doing, however, is committing the county to pay this going forward mid-budget cycle. We're not in the budget cycle where we're considering these across the board. So I think what our pre-conversation was, this would give it a lift, but not commit the county. If the county wants to go all the way to, to make a further increase, the legislature certainly can do that. But I would refrain from doing a lot of mid-year budget commitments independent of one another without being able to see all of the different proposals you have in front of you when we're trying to balance a budget. So this, in my mind, was an interim step, and we may want to increase it further once we get to the budget process for 2023.
I guess, and then my question, maybe Steve, do you see this being sufficient to attract? I know I don't know if it was because of COVID, or I know there's, a call for election workers in the past, or some poll workers, it was short. Do you think this type of bump will help, or do you think that more is needed to get the folks that you need?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm not sure I have an answer for it. I think it'll help a little. Because some people, do it for the money, but there's a lot of people that do it because they, they're civic minded, but the work is hard. The hours are very long. And even though it's, these are for the election day workers, and it's hard to find people, harder and harder, even though we can do a split shift, it's harder and harder to find people to work that want to work the whole day. And I think maybe a little extra money might help there.
All right. Other questions?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to make sure I understood Lisa correctly. So, so Lisa, you're saying that we wouldn't want to take this to a living wage level mid-cycle.
That's, well, it's certainly a consideration. I just don't want to set a precedent or open the door for departments across the board to start mid-year budget requests of the legislature, because it's very hard to compare across departments when people are coming, one at a time with requests. That would be my recommendation.
We need to look at the big picture, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However, there are primaries coming up and a general election coming up prior to the budget season. And given the difficulty in attracting poll workers and election workers, this was why it was brought forth at this time.
All right, Greg, all right, you still look a little perplexed.
No, I'm not perplexed. I don't know. I think I totally and fully understand Lisa's point, and I agree with it. I also think that, we should be an example as an employer, or as a day employer or temporary employer. So that's, where my question comes around the living wage is if we're, encouraging others to do it, we should also be doing it. It's a small amount. I understand the big picture. If it can't be done now, I would like it to at least make sure that it's part of the discussion later. Because we probably should have done this in the last budget cycle, brought them to a living wage raise. But we didn't. So we may now have to correct the sins of our past. But I would just encourage us to really think if 14 is enough, if we look at what other places are struggling to recruit at, because not everybody is civic minded, and this could be a great opportunity for someone to engage in their sort of civic responsibility, and also earn some additional funds when a lot of people need it with rising costs of everything. So just throwing that out there, would fully support this, but would like to see it higher at a living wage rate, and hope we can either do that sooner than later, or we can make sure that it's a priority in the future conversation.
All right, great. You're going to love budget season. All right, are we ready to vote on this? I think we are. So Dan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that passes. Thank you. While Tamara and Steve are here, I'd love to hear any updates that you want to share about petitioning getting started, or the primaries, or how the cycle is looking for you all at Board of Elections.
Well, before we get to, the primary, we do have some village elections coming up within a couple of weeks on March 15th in Trumansburg, Dryden, Groton, and Cayuga Heights. And, but the season this year, just like the last few years, we're dealing with a lot of new laws that are on the books. And the big one this year is the one I alluded to about counting the absentee ballots, and having most of your absentee ballot tabulations released on election night when you release the election day and early voting numbers. That is going to create a lot of extra work at the same time that we're doing a whole lot of other work as we normally do the last couple of weeks of October and first week of November. So that's probably the big thing. As far as petitioning, we are going through the designating petition process for local offices where we have a handful of local town offices plus county clerk and sheriff. The petitioning that's going on in previous 2 years, we've had signature reductions. None of that this year. There's no breaks on the signature requirements. The other change, which is probably minor for us to administer, but is good for the voters, is that early voting, which up until this year, the weekend hours have been 5 hours each day. They are now going to be 8 hours each day. So, and I don't know if Tamara, you might have something to add to that.
Yeah, I was just gonna add as far as the new absentee rules, previously, a person would apply for an absentee ballot because they were going on a trip and be out of town, but so they do their ballot and send it into us, but then they don't go out of town and they can go vote on the machine on election day or during early voting. But with this new law now, you won't be able to do that. So if you've applied for an absentee and we've sent it out to you, you are not allowed to vote on a machine. So that's going to be a big thing to communicate out there to the public and, train our poll workers on how to deal with that and explain that to a voter who would come in. So that's going to be part of our training and that kind of thing. But that's
a
the
big
absentee
change.
thing was big changes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
And the other thing, just to piggyback on what she was just saying, is also with the application process, anything that we receive by mail for an application for an absentee ballot, we now have to have in hand 15 days before the election, not the postmark 7 days prior. You can still, walk in person up until the day before the election, but anything we receive through the mail is 15 days out now.
So how, other than folks, if folks are paying attention to the, these changes, how else are you getting the word out? Or, is Dominic helping at all with,
Yep.
press releases and that sort of thing?
Mhm.
Yes, we've had meetings with Dominic and Lisa Holmes, and we're going to come up with a plan to, get this information out there.
Yeah, because those are some big changes folks
Yes.
might not be aware of.
Yes.
Other questions from anybody about Board of Elections? All right, well, thank you both for being here. Tamara, I know you're in a conference, so I hope you're having a good day there.
Yeah, it's been good so far. I mean, we've had, a number of speakers and, learning lots of stuff and getting lots of goodies from all the vendors that everybody deals with.
Nice. All right, well, thank you both for being here. We'll hopefully have you back again in a couple months and get more updates.
Sure.
Sure.
Great.
Good.
Have a great day, all.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to assessment. And I see Jay Franklin is here. Let's get this resolution on the agenda. So this is extend Town of Covert Shared Service Agreement, ID 10756. Can somebody move that, please? Dan moves. Anybody want to second it? Travis, thank you. And Jay, you want to say anything about this?
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity both for us and the town of Covert to share these services. And, we're able to provide them with a full-time assessment office at a part-time cost to them. Obviously, it still works out for us because we're still making a little bit of money off of this. And it allows me to keep our part-time data collector on staff, who is essentially me going out to the field and collecting commercial property. So it's a win-win for all, and this just is our third continuation of it. And we'll extend this 3 more years and we'll see where it goes from there.
All right, questions? Mike?
Okay, glad to see you want to continue up in Covert. What does Lodi do? Any idea?
Lodi has a shared service agreement with another assessor, and she has 3 other towns up in Seneca County.
Okay,
But we do end up taking a lot of phone calls from some other towns in Covert. Just when you have a part-time assessor, it's hard to find them. And people know where we are now, so we're more than happy to help out.
thank you.
Great. Other questions? Ready to vote? All right, Dan,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes,
Travis,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
and I'm a yes, so that passes. Thank you. Jay, do you want to give us any other updates, or how's it going with all the new assessments rolling out? Are you getting lots of calls?
It's actually so quiet that I'm wondering if the mail is actually being delivered.
Oh, boy.
To be honest with you. You know, we started sending out the notices on February 11th. We posted all of the new figures on February 11th. We just sent out our second town, the town of Ithaca, just this last Friday, whatever day that was. So we have 10,054 notices out right now that were mailed. We only have 316 appointments scheduled so far. That's only 3% of what we've sent out. I would have anticipated that would have been more like 6-7% by now. In terms of general assessments, you always plan for 20% of your changes to come in. So we had 23,503 changes this year. So I would have anticipated a lot more changes. So you plan for 20, you hope for 10, but you kind of expect 15% to come in. So we've really trended around that 10% figure. So right now we're significantly under, and in talking to people who are scheduling appointments, you know, I think everybody realizes that the real estate market's up. And even the people who are contesting their assessment will agree it's up, but they just don't think that it's up for their property. So we're working through these. I think it's going very well so far, but we'll see as we start sending out more towns here. And
Yeah, as a person who represents the town of Ithaca, I've definitely, nobody's contacted me directly, but friends and neighbors on, social media have been talking about it quite a bit. So, but that doesn't mean they're gonna call you and make an appointment. So we'll see.
yeah, and that's, we did send out assessment disclosure notices this year, which is a little bit of a change. And that just says, here's what your estimated taxes would have been if your new assessment and everybody else's new assessment was in place last year. And that seems to be well received. It ceases to amaze me. When I told some of the other real property tax directors that we were going to do disclosure notices, they said, why? Those just cause so much confusion and aggravation. Why would you want to put yourself through that? But our public is just great. They understand it, they get it, and that makes our job a lot easier here.
Yeah. Other comments or questions for Jay about, or go ahead, Jay.
No. I just have one more brief update, but if anyone else has our annual equity maintenance program questions, we can handle that first.
Ready? Nope.
All right. Just touch on, we had a tax billing error this year. The town of Lansing sent in a budget for their fire district that was $10,000 more than what was needed. So when we have an error like this, there's a couple ways you can fix it. You can send people checks for that overbilling, or the town can put that overbilling into a savings account at the county, and then we'll reduce the levy next year. So that $10,000, I took a look at what that would be on every property. On my house, which was assessed for $217,000 in Lansing, it was a $1.38 refund. So the town of Lansing did the right thing in my mind and said, we'll reduce the levy next year. The amount of work to cut those checks for, 4,000 parcels wasn't worth it in order to do this, but just wanted to let you know of that overbilling.
All right, questions on that? No? All right. Anything else you want to talk to us about?
Nope, I'm good.
Nope. Mike?
Jay's still scheduled to come in at our next legislature and talk about the revow and also the, are you going to talk to us about our responsibilities as legislators on the assessment review panels?
I will add that since it is new, or not new, but after a 3-year hiatus, I think the local bars, but we will hold a training on May 3rd at 9 a.m. We're still trying to figure out how we're going to handle that, whether it will be through Zoom or somehow in person, but stay tuned for more information on that. We are scheduling the local advisory board meetings. I think we only have Lansing, Enfield, and Ulysses scheduled so far. But once we get those dates, we'll get it over to the legislature so that you can see when those meetings are. But I put in the known legislative committees and any pseudo legislative committee, for lack of a better word, so that the towns know not to schedule on those nights.
Yeah, I know we do have a couple of folks who are going to be traveling in May and legislators. So it may not be possible for every legislator to be at these meetings. But obviously everyone will do their best. So.
And that's fine. The county charter only says one legislator should be appointed to each, but the towns do appoint more than 2 anyways. So the more the merrier in my book.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate your updates and explanations. So thank you.
No problem. Have a good day, all.
Yep. Have a good afternoon. All right. On to administration. We have a resolution there. Let's see. We've got appropriation from contingent fund for consulting services, county administration, ID 10689. Can somebody move that, please? Travis moves, seconded by Dan. And Lisa, talk to us.
Hi, everyone. So Amanda, Dan, and Mike, this is probably the 3rd time you're seeing this resolution. Greg and Travis, hopefully just the first. And it's so this is requesting funds for 2020 from the contingent fund to continue the contract with Kevin primarily and Jason for consulting around budget. So the background on this is that in 2021, due to the transition in county administrator and budget coordinator, Kevin and Jason, we started a subcontract in order to help us through the budget process. It was for $20,000 and we expended that prior to the end of 2021. We had to come back and ask for additional funds to get us through the end of 2021. And we didn't expend all that we asked for then. We just knew we needed to cover the end of 2021. And this, because we spanned budget years, we're coming back now again to request those funds to take us to the point in 2022 where we left, to the point where we left off. So, and primarily this is due to a few factors, but the most important factor being that the way that we, our budget software that we're using is unique to Tompkins County, and our process is quite unique. And the budget process doesn't begin and end in a few months. It's a full year. So ideally, we would have had a year with Kevin for that transitional time to understand all of the ins and outs. And this is really primarily paying for Kevin's time to help our budget coordinator get the information together and needed for the year-long budget process that we have.
All right, thank you. Questions? Greg?
All right, just curious why this wasn't in the budget.
So let's see. When we were preparing the 2022 budget, we had asked for funding in 2021 for this, thinking that the $20,000 that we requested would be more than sufficient to get us through the entire year, when in fact that funding was fully utilized in 2021, and we needed to come back and ask for more. So we thought we had it covered essentially, and it's taken a lot more time. And we're really trying now fundamentally to change our processes and to procure different software so that we're no longer in this situation.
Lisa, do you feel like this is going to be enough for, I mean, or do you foresee like going through this 30,000 and then still needing to consult with them?
I certainly don't think, I didn't think that we would go through it in the beginning. I don't think that we will. I think that the most intensive parts of the budget we've been through already with Kevin and with Jason. But no, I don't think that we will need more after this. That's my hope and prognostication.
Okay, I guess maybe at some point, down the road, you would come back to us and let us know how much you did spend, or if you did use all of this, or obviously if you needed more, you would come back. So it would be good to just get an update at some point.
I'd be more than happy to.
Okay. Other questions? All right, let's go ahead and vote. Dan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Travis?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Great, thanks, Lisa. While you're there, do you have other updates for us?
We're just plugging along in administration, doing a lot of, again, foundational work that we do. One item of interest to this committee, perhaps, I sit as Tompkins County's representative, one of Tompkins County's representatives on the Health Consortium, the Greater Ithaca and Tompkins County Health Consortium, the board and executive committee. And that board has been involved in doing some long-range strategic planning for the overall functioning and growth and efficiencies and sustainability of the consortium. So it's been a good process, and we've been doing that through several months this winter, and will continue into the spring. But the organization has been serving us very well, serving the needs of the county and other municipalities very well, in keeping the health insurance costs low for participating municipalities and for our employees. And they've been doing a great job working with us as we've made several changes to our health insurance over from 2021 to 2022 with all of the contract negotiated changes. So,
Great, thank you. Does anybody have questions for Lisa about that or anything else? All right, you're off the hook, Lisa. Thanks for being here. All right, reports. I was just going to mention that to remind my colleagues that the Independent Redistricting Commission meets every couple of weeks. All legislators are welcome to attend. They have had meetings, public meetings about different sections of the county where you could go and look at the numbers for your district and give any feedback on that. So just a reminder to be aware that you can attend those if you have comments or perspective that you want to give. I see you, Bill. If you want to give about the process or what you think the district should be, that's the appropriate place to go and give your comments. So, Bill.
Just one point, at this next meeting of the redistricting board, we're actually going to start looking at maps. To this point, we've been taking comments from people, but now we start laying out potential maps for people to start looking at. So for those who are interested, it's going to be held not in a normal place, I think up near the airport. I can get anybody the address who needs it.
And in the large conference room at the Department of Emergency Response.
Okay, and will there also be a Zoom option?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity for us to watch the process, but also if you have comments, that's where you should give your comments. And of course, any public that's interested, you know, should attend and ask questions. And I think it's, you know, looking at the maps will be very interesting, I'm sure.
Right.
What's the date of that meeting?
March.
Okay,
March 8th, Brittany says.
good evening.
Yes, and starts at 5:30. And I'm the staff person assigned to it, so
Yeah,
it's
and
been pretty interesting so far.
yeah, it is. I think we usually get the Zoom link in our email, and the agenda comes to your email too. So just look for that if you want to double check dates and times. All right, Mike?
I just want to say that this is dear to my heart, but I've tried to stay away from the meetings because I want it to be an independent commission. And I'm not saying anyone else shouldn't be there, but that's just my feeling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you know, Hank DeLay has definitely welcomed legislator input, and so you are welcome to attend, but it is meant to be independent, and we certainly don't want politicians influencing the commission.
Interesting, the county of Cortland County just announced its advisory group of 9, most of whom are like mayors and supervisors of the towns and
Oh, really?
the city and things like that up there. I'll bring in and make copies of an article about it. It's not online.
All right. Okay, thanks. Let's see, Amy Hendricks is here. Do you have any updates for us, Amy? If you're there.
I am here, but I do not have any updates at this time.
Does anyone have questions for Amy about anything? All right, well, thanks for being here. Bill, what about you? Do you have updates for us?
So briefly, we had a case brought to trial. Mike may want to recuse himself, but he doesn't really have to. And we got a verdict that was adverse to us, but we've kept the board up to date. Most of you have probably heard about this already. And we have some negotiations coming up, so things are getting very busy. Keep me off the street corners, as they say.
All right, thanks. Questions for Bill? All right, well, thanks for being here. Director of Finance, Rick Snyder is here. How are you, Rick?
I have no report for today, but we are struggling a little bit. We know that we'll be losing our Director of Accounting Services, Joanne Carruthers, on April 1st. And so we're making inroads to getting that job posted and that position hired. We also posted another vacancy that we have, a finance accounts payable position, which is now on the system, and we are accepting responses for filling that vacancy. So we're a little bit behind on year end, and we're a little bit concerned with the loss of staff getting into the very heat of the audit season right now. So we'll keep on keeping on, and I'll keep you posted as how well we do in rehiring these two key positions.
Yeah, that's challenging. Are those the only two openings you have at the moment, or do you have others?
That is all.
Okay.
And that's enough.
Yeah, that's
Like
enough.
I said before, we're in the middle of 5 audits, and 2 of them are mostly complete, but the big ones come at the end, which are the Health Insurance Consortium and the county audit. And those are pretty heavy lifts. And like I said, we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now, and we get a lot of responses from departments to sit in on meetings and help them with their budget and work on things during what they consider the downtime of the year. But we have very little resources because we're spread so thin right now as we go through this audit season that sometimes we don't respond as quickly as we'd like to some of the county administration needs and some of the departmental needs because we're just pressed so thin right now.
Keeps you off the street corners?
Actually, that's my night job, being on the street corner. I think for the most part, we have very diligent staff. A lot have rolled up their sleeves and taken on extra duties already. And it's just difficult in this job market right now, as you're all fully aware of, to hire professionals and management people that come with the skills and the background in governmental accounting. It's a hard area to fill. We've always had a hard time hiring those mid-level positions. So we'll be working with HR and diligent about capturing the best folks that are out there to come on board, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, all right. We wish you luck with that process.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for being here. Dominic sent us a note in the chat. He had to step out, but maybe what we'll do is we'll get him a bigger time slot on the agenda next month, and he can bring us any updates that he has. Do any committee members have anything they want to report or bring up? All right. There's a couple of budget adjustments and transfers for information. Any questions about those? All right, good meeting, folks. Nice to have a shorter one. Thank you all for being here. We are adjourned.
You could